Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this Facebook Live. My name is Michael Wilskett. I'm the Assistant Director here at the Calvin Alumni Association. The Calvin Alumni Association started coming to you live Wednesdays at 4 last year when the initial stay-at-home order started to take effect. Since then, we've had the privilege of interviewing a variety of alumni and friends about their careers, what life looks like for them today, and how they found success in their fields. We took a brief break after the first of the year to make sure everyone had time to enjoy the incredible speakers who participated in the January series, but now we're back and looking forward to hearing more from you. If there's someone you think we should be featured in one of these interviews, please go ahead and leave a comment below. But now today to our guest. Today it's my privilege to introduce Allison Vermeer VanWyngarden. Allison's a 2003 grad who is currently serving as the Director of Therapeutic Writing at Grace Therapeutic Writing in Pella, Iowa. Welcome, Allison. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Michael. I'm happy to be here.
So I hear that you were a two-time world champion in showing American saddlebreds when you were younger. Can you explain a little bit of your journey from riding as a kid to running a therapeutic program now?
It has been a lifelong journey. I actually don't remember learning to ride horse. I'm sure I was about 3 years old the first time I started riding horses, and it's been something that my dad and I have always shared and enjoyed together. And then at one point we sold those horses that I first learned to ride on. And then when I was about 10 years old, my dad asked me, "So do you think you'd like to take riding lessons again?" And little did he know what he was getting into at that point in time. He enjoyed the buying and selling of horses, getting to know different people in the industry. I enjoyed working with the horses, getting to know the people in the barn, and competing. I was very competitive. So it was such a blessing, the opportunity to win those 2 world championships. One was when I was 14 years old, and then the other one when I was 15 years old. I had such a passion for it. I actually considered being a horse trainer at one point in time in my college years. I worked sort of as the assistant trainer for the barn, but then consciously chose not to and pursued, finished college at Calvin, got my business degree, pursued working in business for many years, and really viewed the horses as, something I was able to enjoy and show competitively with, but didn't really know how big of a part it would be in my life again. And my dad and I always shared a love of the horses, and so we would trail ride. He always had horses. And a few years ago, we were trail riding more, and I was thinking to myself, we should do more with these horses. They're really wonderful. But then didn't pursue a whole lot more than that, but then got more involved in using animals for therapy. I was starting to train my dog to be a therapy dog, and then was connected with hippotherapy, which is physical and occupational therapy on horseback. And I'll never forget talking with Kinetic Edge, which is the organization I collaborate with. They're a PT and OT organization, talking to them about hippotherapy. And they were like, "Tell me your hopes and dreams." And I said, I have access to horses and I'm willing to learn. And that was about all I knew. And they said, "Let's keep talking." So that's how it all came back together.
What a great posture to approach it and then to get received well. That's wonderful. Can you explain a little bit to our viewers what therapeutic riding is and kind of what does it all entail?
Yeah, I would be happy to. So it really has a broad umbrella. So I mentioned hippotherapy, which is, hippo is the Greek word for horse. And it's that type of therapy is physical and occupational therapy on horseback. But there's really a larger umbrella called Equine Assisted Activities and Therapies. EAAT is the acronym. And so within that, you have the hippotherapy. There's also therapeutic riding, which I'm a certified therapeutic riding instructor. So in that instance, I would work with a participant and they would have therapeutic goals. It can be physical, it can be emotional, it can be cognitive, it can be sensory, it can be any variety, but you have a goal. But I would be very focused on also teaching that participant to ride to whatever level they may be able to, while still working on that goal. With hippotherapy, with the PT and OT, on horseback, they are very focused on how the movement of the horse benefits the participant. So we are not as focused on teaching them to ride, but you're looking at the movement of the horse, and the pelvis of the horse is the only really three-dimensional way to simulate a healthy pelvis movement of a human. So especially like if you think about someone who has like a weaker side, they may, as they walk across the room, they may favor that side, right? Well, you put them on a horse, and then it's going to give that even movement of what, it would be if that side was completely healthy and there was no weakness. So then we do a lot of work on getting them to sit in the middle of the horse and build that strength up and feel that healthy movement. So it's easy to explain from that way, but it can also be applied to some sensory processing disorders. Some participants have a really hard time even touching a horse. There's a lot of sensory things going on with horses. So there's a lot of opportunities there, as well as anxiety, and lots of different things like that. So those are kind of two lanes underneath equine assisted activities and therapies. There's also mental health, that you can collaborate with mental health providers to also do therapy with horses. And there's just a host of different programs out there. I know of programs that they work with veterans, and other types of things like that.
Do you see an increase in interest in some of these programs with more awareness to some of these challenges that people are experiencing?
I certainly do. I think that this has been a field that has been around for a long time, but I would say it's getting much more accepted, and there has been a lot more research on it. I also think, people don't have always the interaction with animals or being out that they used to have as much. And so it is more unique of an experience than what it maybe was in the past. And what is interesting to me is, we have our participants who come from a therapeutic standpoint, but I'm also seeing the benefit within even my volunteers who come. So I definitely am focused on developing the equine assisted activities and therapies, but I've been amazed at how God has shown me how it's blessing people or benefiting people that aren't even necessarily there for the therapy.
What kind of transformations have you seen in the riders? What improvements, or what stories can you share, and what stories can you share in yourself that you've seen since this process has started? I'll
start with the participants who come. I have been just absolutely amazed. I think of the word brave, and it was really interesting. Someone gave me the book 100 Days to Brave by Annie F. Downs. And it was during my journey of researching and learning about whether we were going to do this or not. And what's pretty cool is the 100th day that when I finished reading, which I didn't read them consecutively in order, the 100th day that I finished was the day I started hippotherapy. Wow. Was the day our program launched. And that just felt like such a God moment, saying, it's time, it's time for you to do this. And I think of that so often with our participants. We have one participant who came, and she has autism and is nonverbal. And when she showed up, she was kind of all over the place, going from one thing to the next, and got really frustrated and agitated brushing the horse. And I thought to myself, oh boy, how are we going to get her on the horse? Because she was frustrated because she wanted to get on, but she didn't know how. And so we got the horse in position, and we had, at that time, we got the participants on from a mounting block, which is, so she was going up and down the steps over and over. She threw sand a few times. She was kind of pushing on the horse, and I thought, oh boy, how's this going to go? And so finally, we kind of just put her on real quick, because she was really wanting. And then we started moving, and she was completely calm. It was unbelievable to see the switch from her agitation and frustration and anger to then just that movement. Those inputs from the movement of the horse are so beneficial to the internal rhythm going on within her, and how that calmed her, and we never had any problem getting her on the horse after that. And now she signs walk on, and I think she even signs walk on at home. So it's neat to see. And we had another participant who, she could barely touch the horse. She would touch him and then she'd wipe her hands off, or we'd have to have baby wipes, or during the session we'd be wiping hands, and she doesn't do that anymore. And I said to her mom, I said, I've noticed she's not, wiping her hands off all the time and different things like that. And her mom said, yeah. And I think it helps her go up the steps 1 foot at a time instead of taking 2. And I was like, yeah, that's wonderful too. I mean, those are things that we don't see because we're not living with them. And then one last one would be, I had an individual very high in anxiety. And I remember the first time we put him on the horse, he was just shaking. His legs were just shaking like a leaf. So I was so proud of him for, getting on the horse and being willing to do that. And his mom said too, I don't think we even realize how much anxiety he carries. Mm-hmm. And, now he gets on, he does, and we've challenged him to do more steering on his own. But for him too, social interaction is really difficult. And so we've been working during the sessions about how to ask people questions. So how are you going to ask your sidewalker some questions? How are you going to ask Allison some questions? And I think in some ways that's less intimidating when you're sitting on a horse. I think of some of the memories of my dad and I out trail riding and the things we talk about that, would be hard to talk about if we're just sitting face to face. So those are just a few of the stories for them. And I think for me, I realize how much I'm constantly learning and learning from the horses, and the way I was just observing the other day, the way I could see this horse was helping. Mm-hmm. So we had a participant who had a weaker side and was really struggling to get into the center of the horse. And he's standing like this to try to get her so she won't fall off, So it's amazing to see God's creation, right, at work and doing their job in a way that can just really enrich people's lives.
So wonderful examples of impacts to the riders and to you and your volunteers, but also to the families and the horses, right? Like it's this wonderful synergy of everyone is really gaining something in a different way. That's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. We're featuring you in an upcoming Spark article, which is coming to press soon, which is exciting. And one of the things you mentioned in the early part of this process was that God kept opening doors for you. Can you share some of the doors that he opened for you that initially you thought were closed?
I would be happy to. I initially told everyone when I first sort of was floating the idea out to people, I told everyone there was a 20% chance that it would happen. So me of large faith, I said that a few times, and that's where I would float the idea out to someone. And one of the early ones was the horse trainer I worked with when I rode. She connected me with someone she knew in her industry who did therapeutic riding. Well, that person ended up being my mentor, who I did the on-the-job training with. I mean, and she, one thing that I really want to pass on that I've learned from this is she believed in me. And there were so many times that I was like, I don't know why you believe in me, but you do. and that's her belief in me helped me believe in myself to then make those next steps. And I want to, give that same belief in others as I see that, because it was really amazing to receive that from her. And then the other one, another door would be when I went to meet with my insurance guy. I was pretty sure that was where this whole dream was going to end, because insurance doesn't get too excited about putting people on horses. And so I thought, oh boy, this is where he's going to tell me a price and I'm going to be like, there's just no way, I can't do this. And I start explaining to him, okay, so I'm going to do this program called hippotherapy, which people usually kind of look at me like I'm crazy when I say. So I started explaining it and he goes, oh, I know exactly what that is. My wife is really interested and would love to volunteer with you. Wow. And that just felt like a total God moment of like, keep going, just keep going. And you know what? His wife was my first volunteer, and she has stuck with me through it all. So, and has been, yeah, just an amazing, amazing support.
Those are great examples. Thanks for sharing that. Last question here. One of the things we often ask our guests is how their work embodies some of Calvin's mission to equip students to think deeply, to act justly, and live wholeheartedly as Christ's agents of renewal in the world. And how do you feel your work plays into that?
That's a great question. I love that mission, and I have been thinking a lot about that. I think first of all, to live wholeheartedly, as Christ's agents, and I think to live wholeheartedly into who God created you to be. And that it may change in phases over time, right? And so that's what this has been, honestly, a journey I did not expect to go on. But yeah, I'm so very grateful to be part of it, and to think, and for me to see in terms of thinking deeply, thinking about how the different influences come together, to work together to create this program that we can hopefully, live wholeheartedly as Christ servants and that we can grow the body of believers in various ways, and shining our light by what we are called and then equipped to do. I've been studying Elijah, and so often through this journey, in the study that I was doing, she talked a lot about, Mount Carmel. We need to bring the sacrifice, but God will bring the fire. So I don't need to create the fire. I need to let God ignite that fire. And so by, us living wholeheartedly, by thinking deeply, act justly, God will bring the fire. We just need to bring the sacrifice.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I'd love to keep talking with you, but unfortunately our time is up here. Thank you so much for being with us today, Allison. It's been a pleasure hearing your piece of the Calvin story, and we're thankful that Calvin has been a part of your life story as well too. And thank you everyone for joining us today on Facebook Live here. As always, if there's anything the Calvin Alumni Association staff can do to support you, please reach out to us. We'd love to help or encourage you or put you in touch with resources that we have available. And please don't hesitate to reach out to us. The best way is probably alumni@calvin.edu. We look forward to hearing from you and encouraging you and helping you and sharing the great news that's happening here at Calvin University. Thank you again, Allison, for joining us, and we'll be back in 2 weeks for another Facebook Live. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Michael.